We've all been there, standing before the ashes of a tragedy, staring into the abyss of suffering. We ask ourselves why? Why do bad things happen, especially to good people? It's a question as old as time, a question that echoes through the halls of history and the chambers of our hearts. It's a question that demands an answer, even if the answer is elusive. The search for an answer to this question leads us down a path of philosophical and theological inquiry. It forces us to confront the very nature of good and evil, of suffering and redemption. We seek solace in the face of pain, meaning in the midst of chaos, this yearning for understanding, for a way to reconcile the existence of a loving God with the reality of suffering is what we call theodicy. Theodicy is not about finding easy answers. It's not about diminishing the pain of loss or explaining away tragedy. It's about wrestling with the big questions, the difficult questions that shake us to our core. It's about engaging in an honest dialogue with the divine, even when we doubt, even when we hurt. The challenge of theodicy is brought into sharp focus when we consider current events. Wildfires rage across continents, leaving behind trails of devastation. Conflicts erupt in different corners of the world, tearing families apart and claiming innocent lives. Natural disasters strike with terrifying force, reminding us of the fragility of life. In the face of such overwhelming suffering, it's easy to question the existence of a loving God. Where is God in the midst of our pain? Why doesn't He intervene? These questions are not signs of weakness, but of a heart grappling with the complexities of faith. One of the most common responses to the problem of evil is the concept of free will. This perspective argues that God, in His infinite love and wisdom, granted humanity the freedom to choose. This freedom, while a beautiful gift, comes with a heavy responsibility. It means that we have the capacity for both great love and unimaginable cruelty. Think of it this way: if we were puppets on a string, our actions predetermined by a higher power, could we truly be said to love? If we had no choice but to be good, would our goodness have any real meaning? The gift of free will allows us to genuinely choose love, compassion, and kindness. However, it also allows for the possibility of hatred, selfishness, and evil. This doesn't mean that God condones or approves of evil. Rather, it suggests that He allows it to exist as a necessary consequence of our freedom. It's a difficult truth to accept, especially when we or our loved ones are the victims of senseless acts. But it's a truth that lies at the heart of the human experience. Theodicy is not just about understanding the origins of evil, but also about finding meaning in the midst of suffering. It's about recognizing that even in our darkest moments, even when we can't see a way forward, God is present. He is with us in our pain, offering comfort, strength, and hope. Many believe that suffering, while undeniably difficult, can lead to greater goods. It can refine our character, deepen our empathy, and strengthen our faith. When we go through trials and tribulations, we develop resilience, compassion, and a deeper understanding of the human condition. This is not to say that suffering is good in itself. It's not about glorifying pain or minimizing the very real trauma it can inflict. Rather, it's about recognizing that even in the midst of brokenness, there is potential for growth, for healing, for transformation. Sometimes, the purpose of our suffering remains a mystery. We may never fully understand why we had to endure certain hardships or losses. This can be incredibly frustrating, leaving us feeling lost and alone. But even when we can't see the bigger picture, we can trust that God has a plan. His ways are not our ways, and His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. The Bible is full of stories of individuals who endured great suffering, but ultimately emerged stronger and more faithful. One such story is that of Joseph. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused and imprisoned, Joseph experienced betrayal, injustice, and hardship. Yet through it all, he remained faithful to God. In the end, Joseph's suffering served a greater purpose. He rose to a position of power in Egypt, saving his family from famine and fulfilling God's plan. His story reminds us that even when we can't see it, God is working behind the scenes. He can use our pain, our struggles, even our darkest moments to bring about His purposes. The question of why God allows bad things to happen is a complex one, a question that has challenged theologians and philosophers for centuries. There are no easy answers, no simple explanations that can fully encompass the mystery of suffering. But by grappling with these difficult questions, by engaging in honest dialogue with the divine, we can deepen our faith and find meaning in the midst of life's challenges. Whether we find solace in the concept of free will, the belief that suffering can lead to greater goods, or the trust that God has a plan we may not fully understand, Theodicy reminds us that we are not alone in our pain. God is with us, offering comfort, strength, and hope even in the darkest of times. And while the mystery of suffering may endure, so too does the promise of God's love, grace, and redemption. What do you think? Have you experienced moments of suffering that made you question or deepen your faith? Share your stories and insights in the comments below. Let's continue this important conversation together.